Hey guys, we're back. This time we're going to be taking a look at the Borg expansion for Star Trek Ascendancy. And the box is actually bigger than I expected. A lot of cool stuff in here. There's less cubes than I was expecting. I think there's only 5 in there, which seems like it's not going to be very many, but having played a few games now, 5's way too many. So we'll get in and take a look. One of the things I found about these Star Trek Ascendancy and its expansion so far is that the boxes are way bigger than they need to be. They have some cool artwork and stuff, which makes it have a nice shelf presence in a store. But for practicality use, they're way, way bigger than they needed to be. So inside here, everything's a mess because I flipped it upside down. But we have our new Borg Assimilation rules. And it explains how to add the Borg to your game. There's a section in here for playing 2-player, like a co-op type game, as well as a single-player game now. And not too difficult to figure out the Borg. I had a couple questions that really aren't covered too well in the book. But for the most part, everything is covered and explained pretty well. It's actually quite a thick book. And they have a summary of things on the back. Is basically their turn order for the Borg. Next we have this small card. Well, it's board, but it's the Borg combat. And when you fight, they're going to start with 9 attack dice. And the Borg always go last on the first round of combat, so you always get first strike. So you're going to roll your damage, and then as you damage the cube, you put their dice on here, so they're losing dice as they go. After every round of combat, you're going to put a node on here to represent that they are adapting to your shields. So the first round, everything's normal. Then after that, you put one on here so their shields get a +1 bonus. Next round, they get a +2, +3, +4, and eventually they get to the point where you can't hurt them anymore. You have to do all 9 damage to destroy a cube. And if combat ends for any reason, if you run away or your fleet's wiped out, the cube will actually heal all damage, so it resets each time we go to combat. Next we have the Borg's dashboard. They don't have 2 sliders like most races because their shields are modified during combat, as we said. They do, however, have a weapon modification that is based on the number of Borg-conquered worlds. The more worlds they take over, the more powerful they get. Then on the other side here we have basic rules of how to take a Borg turn, what happens when the transwarp hub is in play, and then a quick explanation of the shields and weapons. So we have our Borg cubes. As I said, you get 5 of these. They're actually quite large compared to the other ships, which they should be. I mean, the resource nodes are the same size as the standard one, so you kind of get an idea of how big they are. So next we have our Borg tokens. These are activation tokens, so you can keep track of what cubes have taken a turn and what ones haven't. After you get more than 1 cube on the table, you're going to be using these to represent which ones have actually taken their turn already, and you mark them with a token so that you know they've gone. You get a handful of new resource tokens. You have 6 research tokens, 6 culture tokens, and 8 production tokens. Nice to see extra culture tokens in there. I know we run out almost every game we play, so always nice to have more of those. And of course they gave us more nodes. I'm not sure why, because the Borg don't really use these, but they give you 2 more of each to add to what you already have. I guess the Borg can discover warp-capable civilizations and things that already have facilities, so maybe that's part of the reason, but always nice to have more nodes. Then we have these Borg control spires. These are really cool. They're heavier than I thought they'd be, too. I guess it's so the Borg cube, when they're on top, doesn't tip it over, but these go on to planets, and they actually take up the planet, because they're kind of roundish. And when a Borg assimilate a planet, this goes on the planet, and then the little node tokens, which I'll show you in a second, go in these spots on here, And when they get full, a cube appears on the top of here, and then the next turn that cube can launch. And the more of these that are in play at a time, the more powerful the Borg's weapon systems get as well. You get 5 of those. 1 for each cube. Then the Borg have these really cool nodes of their own. And they go on the slot. On these, it's hard to do this while holding it. They go on the slots on these. And as I said, when you get all 3 of them filled, then you end up with a Borg cube on top the following turn, and then that cube can launch. These also count as nodes towards when you're invading the planet or trying to reclaim that planet from the Borg. Every one of these is going to count against you. And these nodes are also used to represent the shields as the Borg assimilate during combat. So you're going to use these to mark off on the combat board there that they're assimilating. Really cool translucent green too. Kind of wish their slider on here was made of that same color, but it works in the black too. Next we have dice. These are like the perfect size for a game like this. They're slightly smaller than standard dice, but they're a little bit bigger than the blue dice that came in the standard Star Trek Ascendancy box. They're actually just a hair smaller than the warp lane dice that you roll. So, kind of cool to have them. There's 9 in here. They have the Borg emblem for a 6. So as I was saying, you're going to have 9 dice here. And as your ship takes damage, you're going to be taking them away and putting them on here. And during combat, for every 6 that you roll that comes up with that Borg icon, you're actually going to be able to take a die back off of here and put it back into your pool to roll to attack as the cube regenerates. And again, every round of combat, you're going to add one of these nodes to represent your shields going up. And it basically increases the number that a player needs to roll to hit the cube. And combat's going to continue until either all 9 dice are placed on there, in which case the cube is destroyed, until the attacking force is wiped out by the cube, or until these shield modifiers get to a point where it basically requires a 7+ to hit, and you can't do that on a die 6, and the players are forced to retreat. The Klingons aren't allowed to retreat from combat. However, they do have a special rule where a 6 always counts as a hit. So regardless of how adapted the shields are, you can still hit on a 6. They'll still fight to the end. If a Borg cube still has health remaining and it gets to the point where the players run away and it ends the combat, all damage is removed from that cube and all of the shield modifiers are removed. The next time combat starts, it'll be fresh and from the beginning again. You get a handful of new warp lane pieces, 2 of each. And there's a neat little Easter egg on the 3 one. It has a Wolf 359 on there. Doesn't really do anything in the game. I saw these in the pictures, and I originally hoped that there was going to be some kind of special rule for it, but there's nothing in the rules for there, but it is a neat little Easter egg that just randomly pops up. We have a handful of new systems, and if you're playing the version that has the Borg in play from the beginning, you're going to start with this transwarp hub already in play in the center of the board. It's also bordered in red. All the little icons around there are red to make it stand out so you know which one it is. If you're playing with the version where you just randomly stumble across the Borg, then this is going to get shuffled in with your normal system decks. We have the Argolis cluster, which is a nice 4 node system. The electrokinetic cloud, which actually kills Borg if they end their movement in that system, which is really cool. We have 2 transwarp conduit systems. These are both connected to the transwarp hub. You can move as a normal warp movement from there to the hub, and then from the hub to the other one if you want. The research token on here. If you brave the hazard, you run the risk of a Borg cube spawning in the system as well, because you're gaining their attention. Then we have a normal planetary system. And the Pulse and Nebula. Ships that are in this cannot be attacked and do not block other ships' movement, so people can move right past each other. Kind of an interesting one there. Next we have the really cool Borg tech cards. Borg don't have a advancement deck like other races. They have these Borg tech cards. Every time you liberate a Borg world or you defeat a Borg cube, you're going to draw one of these. A lot of them have 0 cost, so you can immediately put them into play. And they give you interesting effects. Some are one-time use, some are permanent. There are a few that do require research, so they're going to go in just like a normal project until you've researched them. Then you get their benefits. Lots of cool and interesting and thematic things in here. And there's enough of them where you're probably not going to see all of them in a game. Well, you're definitely not going to see all of them in a game. So it may take you several games to go through the whole deck, and it's always cool to have just random things come up. We have a whole bunch of more exploration cards. Most all of these involve the Borg in some way. You can come across worlds that are already controlled by the Borg. There's assimilated colonies. Transwarp beacon, which can draw Borg ships. You even have an isolated, there's drones, and I think there's an isolated cube or something at one point. There it is, a damaged scout ship. And there's a chance if you try to salvage some stuff from it, you can get one of those tech cards. But if you fail, there's a chance a Borg cube will come. And then there's one that just summons a Borg cube. And they do have different colored icons up here in the corner, as you can see. You're going to use various ones depending on the game type you're playing. There's a couple different game types in there. Basically, it's whether the Borg are already in play from the beginning or whether you're going to run into them as you progress. And it makes it really cool to pull these back out because they're very easy to find. Every single one of them has that Borg symbol in the corner, which is really cool. You're also going to stagger these farther down the deck too. I believe just like you do with the planetary system tiles, you're going to take 2 cards per player off the top of the deck, then shuffle these into the remainder, and then put those cards back on top. So you don't run into Borg on your first draw of exploration, which would suck. And the last thing we have here are the Borg command cards. These are basically going to be telling the Borg cubes what to do. They range from moving, these aren't shuffled very well. They range from moving to a target, attacking the nearest thing. There's assimilating systems. There's a couple that add Borg nodes, and so on. And for each cube, each turn, you're going to draw one of these and see what it does. Sometimes they'll jump over a system right next to them that you think they might go attack, and other times they'll go out of their way to do obnoxious things and get in your way. And it's kind of fun and thematic. So there's a look at everything that comes in the Borg Assimilation expansion for Star Trek Ascendancy. A lot of stuff, though the box could have been about half the size that it is. Originally, I would have liked to have seen more Borg cubes in there, at least like 10. But after having played a couple games, 1 cube is bad enough. 5 is very, very bad. 10 would be pretty much game over anyway. So, as cool as it would be to have more, and I may pick up a second box set at one point just to have more for those crazy, stupid games we want to play. But, yeah, what they have now is plenty. Overall, it adds a really cool component to the game. Allows you to play 2-player, which is a huge thing. The game, playing the base game 2-player, was kind of lackluster at best. Definitely plays better the more players you have. And this allows you to even play solo. I tried playing solo with the Cardassians, and they kind of take too slow to build up because you have to leave a ship in orbit in order to get the production, so you're spreading out your fleet. And it did not go well. But definitely with the right combo and some good luck, You can play the game solo. You can definitely play it 2-player with the co-op rules that are in there. And then the Borg just add more interesting interaction to any multiplayer game with player counts above that. The really interesting thing is that they added rules in there so that the first race who gets their homeworld destroyed by the Borg and taken over, they actually lose completely. Well, any race that gets their homeworld taken over loses completely, but the first race who does get destroyed, they actually start taking control of the Borg, and it makes their turns move a little bit more interesting and faster. And basically, their race has become assimilated, and they are the Borg. So that's an interesting little twist as well. Definitely worth picking up, though, if you're a fan of Star Trek Ascendancy. It definitely adds a lot more to the theme of that game. The Borg are threatening and powerful, as they should be, and when they start showing up early in the game and you're not ready for them, they can be quite lethal and wipe you out very quickly. So you need to build up and be ready for them. One of the big things is that the Borg weapons bypass shields. So a lot of people tend to boost up their shields, especially the Federation, so they can go out and explore those hazardous systems. Now you're more inclined to boost up your weapons because you're going to need them, as well as try to get some of these Borg tech cards and the advancements of your own that are going to beef up your fleets and make your planets more easily defendable and things like that. Definitely an awesome expansion, adds a lot to an already good game. Some people don't like certain aspects of the game. I don't think it's going to change it enough for you to like it with this if you don't like it normally. But aside from maybe being able to play it with 1 or 2 players, that may push you over the edge if that's what was holding you back. But overall, it's fun, it's neat, it adds a lot of cool stuff to the game, and feels very thematic as with most of the stuff in Ascendancy. So it's definitely a must-have if you're a fan of the game and you're looking to add just something extra to add that much more to it. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for our look at Star Trek Ascendancy, the Borg Assimilation. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for our look at the Star Trek Ascendancy expansion, Borg Assimilation. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.